Where did I leave this last time? Oh yeah. I think I'm actually lost. I kept walking in what felt like the correct direction, and I genuinely thought I would not find the hostel. That wasn't until I started to hear something familiar in the distance. That's right, as I walked down these completely unknown streets in Kyoto, thinking I might not ever find the hostel again, I stumbled on something familiar. And as I turned around the corner, there was one sound that played in my head.
I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning!
That's right, the very same pachinko parlour that I had joked about before. Perhaps it was the sound of people losing their life savings, or maybe something else that drew me to it. But as soon as I saw that building, I knew exactly where I was. Hi. So obviously that's a little bit of an exaggeration. I didn't literally hear the pachinko slots calling to me, but they were genuinely the way I found my hostel again. Like, I just walked down a high street until I saw them, and then I was like, oh my god, I know where I am. So it was really scary to be lost, actually. I had bought a portable charger with me, and I can't believe that I let both that and my phone die while I was out, while I didn't know where I was. So that was really stupid of me. So word to the wise, if your phone's getting low on battery, walk back, stop filming stuff. But I got back, I made it, thank God, and here's how the rest of that day went. After finding my way back, and the huge surge of relief that came with, I just wanted to sleep, but I decided not to, and I got showered, got dressed, and went out to get some snacks from the convenience store, as well as putting my laundry on in the coin-operated laundry machine. It was quite late at this point, and I was exhausted and jet-lagged. But I didn't want to go to sleep yet. I wanted to make the most out of my day, eat some food, have a drink, and then I decided to go to bed once my laundry was done. You can kind of see just by the state of me here that I am exhausted. And so I conked out. The next morning I had some yummy onigiri to start my day. I didn't record too much of me getting ready because I wanted to head straight out, because something I noticed the night before was that directly across from my hostel there was this huge temple. I didn't know about this temple before coming to Kyoto, because online I mostly checked for where the hostel was in comparison to the train station and other landmarks I already knew about. So I got up bright and early to check out this temple. As it turns out, this temple, called Higashi Hoganji Temple, was built as one of the headquarters for the Jodo Shin sect of Buddhism, and it's a really great place to experience contemporary Buddhism. It has this beautiful grand look to it and is one of the world's biggest wooden structures. Even just the entrance gate was so gorgeously big and detailed. And around the outside you had lots of these red spider lilies. I'm not actually sure if you'd call the water feature around the outside of the temple a moat, but it had these gorgeous koi carps in it. I decided to head into the temple. It was nice and quiet because it was quite early in the morning. The temple grounds were huge, with the Goido or Founders Hall being right in the middle. I decided to have an explore of some of these smaller structures first, like this gorgeous dragon water fountain, the bell tower or shoro, the Amida Hall, which I decided to go in and check out, and I'm so glad I did because it was absolutely gorgeous. Some of these temples have signs up saying you can't film in them, but this one specifically said you can unless there was a ceremony going on. The Amida Hall is famous for housing the Amida Tathagata statue, which is the Japanese name for the principal Buddha of Mahayana Pure Land Buddhism, or Jodo Shin Buddhism. The altar, which is completely covered in gold leaf, is supposed to represent the world of Buddha's enlightenment. Honestly, this place was as interesting as it was gorgeous, even down to the intricate lights that hung around the room. I head outside onto the balcony of the hall. The morning light was beautiful, and it was such an improvement on yesterday's weather. I actually spent quite a lot of time sat outside at this point just because of how nice the sun and the view of the courtyard was. After the short rest, I headed over to the Founders Hall, which was the main big wooden building in the centre of the grounds. Again, the main rules in this place were you couldn't record if a ceremony was going on and you had to take your shoes off. Luckily, there was no ceremony going on at this time, so I was able to record the inside. The inside of this hall was even more intricate. It was quite similar in design. It still had a lot of gold leaf and a lot of intricate detail, but the central altar was even bigger and more gorgeous to look at. And with these golden statues of Buddha lining the walls, you can tell this is a beautiful place to worship. Just around the corner from the two halls, I saw a sign for a gallery, so I went to check it out. Through the hallway, there were some gorgeous pictures of some Buddhist phrases. This one, for example, says, "Though our hearts are fearful of evil, hardly ever are our minds fond of good." It's a philosophical quote that highlights the core human condition of being filled with blind passions, making it difficult to naturally do good, even when we wish to avoid evil. There are quite a few other similar phrases on the walls going down to the gallery, but they all follow the trend of being part of Buddhist teaching. At this point, I still had my shoes off, so I was walking around these halls in socks. It felt pretty bizarre walking around these halls. It felt like I shouldn't be here, even though it was open to the public. But the architecture and the gardens outside were absolutely gorgeous, so I wasn't complaining. When I got down to the gallery, the first room had lots of information about plants that grow in Japan, although I couldn't quite read everything that was on these posters. Going down the stairs to the gallery, there was some beautiful artwork with various animals on the wall. And in the entrance to the gallery, there was information on Buddhism across Japan, with information about the location of different temples and different statues. Going further into the gallery, there was more artworks and ancient religious texts on the walls. And at the very end of this gallery, there was even a lecture hall. There wasn't currently any lectures going on in progress, but it was very cool to look in. After I'd done all my exploring, I decided to head back out. It was still early in the morning, and I hadn't actually gotten started on what I had first planned for the day. So I said goodbye to this temple and headed out, making a quick stop at this little market to buy some jewellery. Now I've got to say, the vibe around Kyoto was completely different today. Yesterday it was all gloomy and grey, but today it was bustling and sunny. I made my way down to a bus stop and went in my purse to make sure I had the exact right change for that bus. But when I went into my bag, I realised something was wrong. The rail card that I had so carefully put in my bag was gone. I can't believe it. I can't believe that I misplaced my rail card. I think what happened is I put it in my normal little bag where I had my purse and my passport, and I was being careful. Every time I opened that bag, I was checking it was in there, making sure I didn't pull it out accidentally. But by the end of that day, having gotten lost, walked about 20,000 steps, and it being quite late, I was exhausted. I got out to go to a shop. I must have just taken my purse out, not looked, dropped the card on the floor, and then lost it that way. I could have really freaked out about this. I could have let it ruin the holiday, but I managed to sort it out. I went into my emergency fund, and this is a word to anyone who's planning on going on a long holiday. Bring an emergency fund. You do not want to be caught stranded without any money. And luckily for me, I had some money put by for emergencies like this. And so after a moment of real wobble, I got on my bus and made my way to my next activity with a clear mind. As I got to Nijojo Castle, it was immediately very apparent how different the weather was going to be. It was so sunny. I picked up one of the pamphlets at the entrance, because even though this was somewhere I had pre-planned to go, I hadn't yet done much research into the history of the castle. But my first impression was that it was absolutely gorgeous. The castle grounds themselves were enormous, and the famous inner gate was covered in gold leaf and ornate statues. Now, unlike the other temple, this temple does not allow filming inside. So if you are in Japan, I highly suggest you go and see it for yourselves, because it is really beautiful. After I went through the temple, I went back outside, and I feel the need to reiterate, it was boiling. The day that I went to the castle, there was an event going on behind the dozo, or the storehouses, called the Kyoto Specialty Exhibition, which showcased some things that are famously made special in Kyoto. My personal favourite part of the event was that they had a tea ceremony viewing. where just for 500 yen, they made you some matcha, warabi mochi, and gave a demonstration of how a tea master makes matcha. Everything was done so delicately and precisely, it was so cool to see. Plus, I got to take a photo with the tea master himself, where I couldn't quite handle the weather. After the tea ceremony, I went to explore the rest of the castle grounds, which there was so much of. When I tell you, I have just so much footage of me just walking around the grounds here. It was all completely beautiful, but I don't want to bore you and show you everything. Although I will show you this gorgeous pond and this very handsome pigeon who I've decided to name George. After more walking around, I found this lookout that lets you get a really cool view of Kyoto. And then I decided to leave, partially because the sun was killing me and partially because I'd gotten a bit hungry. Luckily for me, just down the road from the castle was this ramen shop. I sat down and ordered a plate of ramen and accidentally ordered a plate of chicken as well. I didn't know what I was ordering, but it was so yummy. After I finished my food, I headed out to do my last thing of the day in Kyoto, which was go to the Pokemon Center. For anyone who doesn't know me, I am a huge Pokemon nerd, so I was super excited for this part of the day. And I've got to say, on vibes, the Kyoto Pokemon Center delivered. I picked up a few things as gifts for my friends and a couple of things for myself, but I had to be pretty restrained with my money, especially after losing my rail card. But there were so many cute things I really wanted to buy. I'll have to come back for them at some point. For one of my friends, I picked up the pair of Kyoto exclusive Pikachus, as well as a few Pokemon card bits. I also really want to come back for this Espeon. By the way, if you've gotten this far in the video, let me know by commenting what your favourite plushie would be to get. Mine was my Shinx one that I got fairly recently. I had a last little look round before paying and leaving, and then my last day in Kyoto had actually come to an end. So I got all my stuff, hopped on a train, and was on my way to Osaka. Kyoto to Osaka is a pretty quick travel, at least a lot quicker than Tokyo to Kyoto was. So when I got there, it wasn't too late in the evening, which is great for me because I still had a bus to catch to get to my hostel. After struggling to figure out exactly where I was supposed to get my bus, I hopped on and made my fairly quick journey to my hostel. Look at these pretty trees, by the way. The sun went down pretty quickly, as when I got to my hostel it was already dark out. It was in this metropolitan area of Osaka, so it took me a second to find it amongst the busy roads, but just in the distance you can see it over there. My third hostel, Hostel Chillax. This hostel had such an awesome and unique vibe to it. It was all reggae and Caribbean themed, which was a really cool change from what I'd been experiencing on this holiday to Japan so far. It had this really cool lounge and bar area, which I'm sure would be really cool to hang out in, and the cool vibes continued in the room. Again, like the other hostels I'd stayed at, it had bunk beds that were separated into individual capsules, and this is my one, which I only just realised while editing this that I'd left really messy. When I got to the hostel, I immediately settled in and took a shower because the hot weather in Kyoto had made me sweat so much. The shower area in the hostel was basic, but all you really need. Unfortunately, in Kyoto, I'd picked up some bug bites and also a sunburn, so I was pretty uncomfortable when I went to bed that night. So without doing too much more, I just went straight to sleep. The next morning, I got up ready for my first proper day in Osaka. The hostel was pretty warm, so I had another shower before getting ready. And you can see here the sunburn went quite down overnight, but it was still there, so I put on a lot of sun cream today. This was my outfit for the day. I think it's quite cute. They're pretty basic trousers, but they're comfortable. And as I went down the stairs from my room in the hostel, there was some cool artwork in the hallways. You can really tell the people who run this hostel love this aesthetic. I didn't waste much time getting ready, and soon I was out in the street and ready to explore Osaka. My plan for the day was to go to Osaka Castle, or Osaka-jo. The weather in Osaka was a little bit cooler and a little bit more windy than Kyoto was, so I felt a lot more comfortable. And so off I went. I hopped on a train ready to go to Osaka-jo. For some reason, I found it a little bit harder to navigate around this train station, but eventually managed to find my way out. And before anyone asks, yes, I had a coffee in my hand, and no, I was not drinking it while on the train. I know you're not supposed to do that. I had to get another train to get to my final destination, but soon I was off and leaving the station to get a bus to the castle. There was something quite freeing about being able to walk around and take my time while travelling alone. I've been on touristy holidays before with heavy itineraries, and feeling like I have to rush from place to place is really not for me. I really like to explore a city, so walking around like this was really nice. And if you're like me and you do want to experience a place and not just rush around, I do suggest travelling alone, or if you're not comfortable with that, travelling with a like-minded person who will let you take your time. As I finally arrived at the castle, I saw that the grounds for this one were even bigger than the Kyoto castle, like really impressively big. I decided to first explore the gardens instead of the actual castle itself because I was feeling really relaxed and wanted to bask in the sun. And it was a really nice decision because the gardens felt like one big park and the sun was lovely. And of course the knowledge that I had SPF on this time definitely helped. As you walk around the gardens, you can actually see the castle, and it's huge and really gorgeous. I couldn't wait to explore it.
This is my first time doing a verbal check-in in a while. I decided to go to the gardens at Osaka Castle first. Just kind of calling to me. I assume most people probably go to the castle first and then go to the gardens after. There's not very many people here at the gardens, which is why I feel comfortable talking to the camera. But yeah, been having a really good time so far. Lost my JR pass. Not great, not what you want. Part of me is thinking maybe this evening I go to Kyoto station and just ask if they have it, but then it would take me like a couple hours to get back there, and I'm not sure if it's worth. I'm not sure whether it's worth the time and effort to go back to the station simply to ask, has it been handed in? There is a phone number you can call, and I'm umming and ahhing a little bit, but as I read it online, it's a Japanese only phone number, so they won't speak English, which will be a bit daunting for me, because I think I could probably ask where it is, but I don't know if I'd necessarily understand the response. Anyway, otherwise the trip's been fantastic. Got a little bit of a suntan burn situation. You can see why my bag was over my shoulder as well. Got pretty chewed up by mosquitoes. Like, there's bites everywhere. But no, I'm having a really good time, and a surprisingly chill time. Like, making my way around has been surprisingly easy. Pretty happy with how this trip's going so far. Very interested when it comes down to tomorrow, where I have to get the train down to Kagoshima and then the ferry. And also I'm going to have to pay for the train down to Kagoshima. It's beautiful. Really quiet. Also, I'd really love to take some photos right now, but of course, like the one day where I go somewhere quiet enough, I forget my tripod.
And that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you for joining me again. I hope that anyone who's watching is enjoying this little series. I was having a really good time, even though I'd lost one of my possessions that cost £400. But even though I lost that, and even though I got lost myself, I so far was having a really good trip, and I'm sure you can see that in some of the really gorgeous footage I got. It was also really nice to do some more touristy things on this particular couple of days. I will try and get the next one done a little bit quicker, and I will see you then. Bye!